This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1223, and it's the Relevant Podcast, New Year's Eve edition. Here in Orlando, I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, is Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner.
What's happening?
And that's it. It's just three of us today. Emily is she's up in Chicago celebrating New Year's. And then...
Oh, okay. I didn't know she was in Chicago.
Yeah.
We were talking. I was like, she said, where could I go that would be the coldest? And I said, you just got to go north. You got to go up to Chicago. And then she said, great. I want to be the coldest on New Year's Eve. So, no,
Did she say that for Oscar?
No, I was like, what are you going to do outside on New Year's Eve in Chicago? I mean, it's a tundra up there. That does not sound fun to me.
I'm like, you could have went to New York. I mean, that's the New Year's Eve of New Year's Eves.
I did that a couple years ago with Cohen.
Was it crazy?
We always do New York around the holidays. I love it. It's brisk and festive, but we've never done New Year's Eve. And so last minute, I mean, it was like the 30th, we decided to go to New York for New Year's Eve. And so it would have been 2 years ago. We booked a last minute thing, everything was last minute. And I was like, how do you get to see the ball? Because while I don't want to sit in that crowd all day with diapers on, it would be cool just to say, we saw it,
with diapers on.
Yeah, well, that's when people line up in Times Square, they don't want to lose their spot, and so a lot of people wear like adult diapers that they don't have to break away.
They show up at 8 a.m. and can't leave, and there's no public restrooms in Times Square. So and in Times Square, everything's really shut down. All the streets are shut down.
You got one option, and that's bubblegum shrimp. And trust me, they got it on lock that night. Okay, you don't get a shrimp platter, you ain't using the bathroom. Okay, here's I got a take for you guys. I think out of all the holidays, okay, that we collectively celebrate, I think New Year's Eve is the most anticlimactic. And here's what I mean. Like, theoretically, it's the most climatic because you literally count down to the moment, But if you think about all the other holidays, like the thrill of the moment kind of lasts for a day or two, obviously Christmas, that's a big one. Like even after Christmas morning, everyone's still having a good time. Like you're
eating
playing
leftovers and all that good stuff.
Yeah, eating leftovers, breaking out that new drone you got or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you got a couple days at least of testing out the new gear, right? Or hanging out with your kids or whatever. Valentine's Day, it's a whole day. If you're doing like a date night thing, it's a whole date night, and you probably got leftovers too. Okay, there's a lot of leftovers in these situations. Easter,
Thanksgiving, leftovers.
Thanksgiving, you got football all day. All day. They pack that thing out with games, okay? It's not like one moment and it's over. It's like, no, you eat and then you're chilling.
4th of July leftovers, Memorial Day leftovers.
And it's an all-day thing, 4th of July. You're barbecuing, you're at the beach, at the pool.
Yeah, and then like Easter, Halloween. Halloween just gets better. Like, I feel like, trick-or-treating when you're a kid. You got fun Halloween costume parties as a grown-up. Easter, you're all swagged out all day, okay? Right. Everyone's swagged out the whole day, okay? It's fun. New Year's Eve, you count down to the moment, and it's kind of after that. It's fine. Maybe we'll hang out for a little while, but at some point you're like, I'm kind of tired. How are we getting home here? Like, it's just I don't know. The more New Year's Eves I go through, the more I think it's an overrated holiday.
All right. So question. I don't think I've ever asked y'all that. Did y'all do watch services?
Dude.
Did y'all do those?
So I had a discussion with this because my church is having a New Year's Eve party / service, and I go to a predominantly black church. And I was telling my parents, like over Christmas, I was like, they said, "What are you doing for New Year's or whatever?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm probably going to go to church." And like, I think that's more of a black church thing because when I was growing up Pentecostal, we had church services, which frustrated me no end because the guy would be preaching during the 12 o'clock and we wouldn't even count down or nothing. So was AG Pentecostal have New Year's Eve church services, but it's predominantly black churches, like the long services, because our service starts at 8:45.
Yes,
this year.
That's why I was asking.
3.5 hours.
Growing up, I didn't see the ball drop on TV until college.
Right.
We were at church. So ours started at 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And then it's a big celebration. It's choir, the pastor preaching, and then right around 11:30, everybody would start praying, and we'd pray the new year in. And then once somebody say, all right, we're in 2020, whatever, then everybody start praying more, and then we go eat breakfast and go home. That was my New Year's every year growing up until college. I didn't even know anything about like watching the ball drop and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know if that was a black thing or not.
There was some praying in the new year in my church.
Pentecostal. Yeah, it's Pentecostal and black church, but I don't think First Baptist is having a 3.5 hour New Year's Eve service.
I'll say this: I never attended mine. I was aware of them, and I think it's probably a good thing. It is a good thing, objectively, to pray in the new year.
For sure.
I'm just saying, especially when I had a car, that was not my event of choice. Yeah. But all that to say, it's always kind of fun, the build up, and then you're watching like. Do you guys watch they bring all these artists to do like one song out in Times Square. Everyone looks uncomfortable too. No one looks like they're having fun. It looks like forced fun at like Dick Clark's deal. No one is actually having a good time. Except for the CNN guys. The CNN guys get a little loose and weird that night.
They're having fun. A lot of fun.
They get a little toasty. And then that one year, because they went a little too far one year, they said, we're doing it sober that year. Yeah. And then they started sneaking drinks. And they're like, we're not doing it if it's a sober.
but I'll say, when you watch like Ryan Seacrest and all of them.
Yeah. It's too telepromptery.
It's too tight. It's too tight. That's not how New Year's is, And everyone's cold out there. Yeah.
CNN, Anderson Cooper's nose is all red.
The year we went, so again, this is all last minute. Here's what I learned. If you ever want to go, I have a little hack that we accidentally found. So there's one way in and one way out. So for crowd control reasons, they barricade everything on the side streets. And you can go in down on like 36th on Broadway, or you can go in at the top at like 48th. That's it. And it's all gated other than that. And so, but if you think about it, all those side streets are full of restaurants and bars and things like that. And it's like, what are they going to do? Just shut down for the night? And so what we did is we got last minute reservations for the New Year's Eve event at one of the restaurants that is on the side street of Times Square. So at 11 o'clock for our reservation, we go up to the side street barricade, like on 43rd. And we're like, we have reservations for that restaurant right there. And so they let us pass the barricade. We go to the restaurant. And then at 11:55, everybody in the restaurant piles out. We go stand out on Broadway, see the ball drop, and then go back into the restaurant. And it was like a live band doing like Sinatra. And it was like the most New York classy New Year's ever. Me and my kid. It was great. So
that's a hack.
Get a reservation for a restaurant or a bar behind the barricade, and they'll let you in. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a hack. That's a hack for real.
Yeah.
Look at that.
All right. But, I agree with you, Jesse. Like the way I used to throw parties, New Year's Eve parties, and it's like, what time do you start them? Because if you do a normal, like 8, come at 8, we're all standing around or milling around for 4 hours.
Yeah. You're just like, all right, who's going to make it to midnight here? It becomes a little endurance
And then
test.
like, there's nothing New Year's Eve about it. So you have on a football game or something. And then finally the New Year's Eve stuff kicks up at 11, but everybody's been sitting around for 3 hours watching football. They're getting tired. 12:01, everybody's home. I mean, like leaving to go, it's just like, I agree with you. It's
okay. Here.
Anticlimactic.
All right, hold on. Here's one way to fix it.
Okay.
All right. So like Thanksgiving has football. Like it's reliably good games. It's going to be on the background. So in case things get a little dull, you watch a little football.
Right.
Halloween's got costumes. Christmas has presents. Okay. Easter, you got the fancy dress and maybe Easter egg hunt for the kids, right? Every one of these holidays have an element. New Year's doesn't have that thing, right? It's just like we're just waiting around. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think it should be. I think on every New Year's Eve, like starting at like 10:30. Okay. Televised, so it's on in the background, just enthralling everyone. It's a big like stage magic show. But hold on, here's the twist. It's like a super team. Okay, so you have like you get Copperfield, David Blaine. You get like Generation, that guy who does the prank show. You get them all. Okay. And they're doing the best illusions New Year's Eve. And they just kind of one up every year. Okay. It's a magical night. It should have actual magic happening. That's the pitch. And some network is
magic game. Go triple meta. Like magical night, magic happening at halftime at a magic game on New Year's Eve.
And the halftime is extended to 3.5 hours.
Yes. Love it.
But it's like Netflix tried to do that this year with like the Beyonce deal, right? They wanted it to be like, oh, Christmas Day, we're going to have this awesome halftime show and the whole country's going to watch, which, by the way, I thought it was pretty great.
The Beyonce Bowl was crazy.
Yeah. I didn't know it was happening. I was watching basketball. And then I saw
Netflix
afterwards. Yeah, I know.
I didn't know. I was just watching the game and I was like, Beyonce. I was like, oh, shoot. That's Beyonce, Shabuzi. I think Jelly Roll was there.
Yeah, Post
Malone was there. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
It was great. She did awesome.
What do you do on New Year's Eve? What's your plans tonight for the family? What do you guys do?
We gonna just go to sleep probably and wake up next day. Seriously? We don't really like New Year's Eve. Like I said, so growing up with watch services, it was never like this thing. It wasn't like a holiday to us. Like it was. So now, me and Amithia may stay up and watch Netflix. Maybe the kids may stay up and play video games. And hey, y'all, it's 2025. We might, crack open a bottle of wine and say, all right, baby, love you. Let's get to it. But it's New Year's Eve never been nothing that's like just insane.
Are you guys big resolutions people? Like, is it like new year, new me, that kind of thing?
No. So, but I do have a word that I kind of guides me throughout the year because obviously I have tons of goals being an entrepreneur and dad and all those different things, so I always have a like a word or a focus for the year, but it's never like I'm not a resolution dude. My idea with resolutions is why wait to start today, right? So like I started doing my detoxes and stuff like that. I started that at the end of November. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't going to, like, some people are like, I'm going to wait till all the festivities to start getting dressed. Like, it's like, nah, I started like early in December. So I feel like, I just want to feel better. So I'm not a resolution person. I just make a decision to change. Like,
what's the word this year?
The word for me is peace, protecting peace. Like, I just want to be peaceful. And then as far as business, it's scale. So personally, it's peace. Business-wise, it's just scale. Like, take what I'm doing now and just do it better for more people. I like it. That's it.
I like it.
I'm not a resolution person either because you're setting yourself up for failure. But I have found in my the last few years, I do think about the last year, good, bad, all in between, try to learn from it, and then get a clear sense of where I would like my life to be a year from now. Like I do think about that. Like, okay, because then it's a thing of, well, if you want to be in shape, what are you doing today to be in shape a year from now? If you want to be at a different place financially, what are you doing today to be in that place financially? It's like incremental. It's like progressive, like you're saying, entrepreneurially. It is progressive. It's not like shock and awe, like I'm going to do this hardcore thing because you're going to burn out and fail at it.
Facts.
Yeah. But it's like if you have a sense of direction, and like to me, it's a good time. Like I mean, I'm not to be sad, but every other year we alternate. So every other year I spend New Year's Eve pretty much alone usually, and it's really good, like for thoughtfulness and like contemplation and just thinking about where the years, what's happened this year and where I'm going. So. It's a time to like halftime, take inventory, take stock for me.
And a lot of it too is, the point of like not setting yourself up for failure. A lot of it is teaching yourself to enjoy something you didn't think previously was enjoyable. You know what I mean? Well, for some people, that's like, honestly, reading the Bible seems like kind of a chore. How can I train myself if I want to do it every day or read it in a year where it doesn't feel like a chore?
Well,
or like
start Leviticus. That's one tip.
I do. Listen.
Numbers.
Listen, I knock out the genealogies in January. Okay? All of them.
Oh, you start there. Just get out.
I get them out of the way while I'm motivated. Okay? Yeah. And then I get into the interesting stuff. All right? Okay. Revelation is next.
Yeah. Me and my wife were talking about this week is like, especially when it comes to like faith and things of that nature. Like, I may have a different perspective. Like, so a lot of people are like, man, I have a quiet time. And they're like, I get up at 5 a.m. and I do this. And that's a good routine for them. Me, I kind of feel like when it comes to even the Bible or reading or just fitness, health, it's beginning to make a lifestyle choice. And that's why I struggle with the resolution stuff, because they feel like when you have a resolution and you put a time limit on it, you can't dictate what life is going to throw at you to knock your time off. But if you say, you know what, I'm going to make it my business to live in the word. I'm going to make it my business to live in prayer, make it my business to live a healthy lifestyle. Then no matter what life throws at you, you adjust to it. So, if something happens to where you can't read at 5 a.m, it's like, well, okay, I'm going to get it at lunchtime on my break. You know what I'm saying? Like so that's the reason why I'm not a big resolution time type person, because a lot of times even the living a lifestyle of something, it takes time to even find what speaks to you and what doesn't speak to you. So, you may be like, man, I'm going to change and be healthy, but you may go through, 4 different types of diets till you find the one that feels natural to you. Like you may go vegan or you may go carnivore and you may go, all these things. It takes time. So when you put resolutions on, like, I feel like oftentimes you set yourself up to fail. But I also do think, Cameron, like what you're saying, you have to be reflective and have to have some sort of goal to shoot for. Like, I'm not saying I don't have goals. I'm just saying I don't necessarily put them in the most rigid of boxes. Right. Because I also know me, I'm such a creative and it has to be different. It has to feel a little different.
To me, the arbitrary destination thing is the goal thing of like, I achieved X or I made X. That to me is like, I don't know. Like maybe I've just been disappointed too many times in life, or realized that my plans are maybe not God's plans. And I don't know what's around the corner. So I hold plans loosely, but it's like, I know the direction. I know what I'd like to see life be like. And, there is something my dad kind of was in the 80s, kind of Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins-esque, kind of like business, whatever. He'd be playing those tapes in the car. And, I was hearing things like, that which you measure will grow. Yeah. Right. Well, there's wisdom in that. And my dad kind of said a thing of like, if we can grow the business 15% a year, we'll double every 5 years. So he had a 15% a year growth strategy. And he broke that down by month. And I'm like, that's great for you. I've never seen plan A happen exactly the way it's supposed to.
Well, that's the thing with some of the because that hasn't gone away. It's just evolved, right? There are 1,000 YouTube channels and podcasts and Instagram feeds of people, that teach kind of their leveling up methodologies and things like that. And I don't think they're necessarily, to your point, I don't think they're necessarily bad. I think it's not a one size fits all thing, because for some people, they need a regimen. They need discipline. Like it has to be hard for them. For some people, they kind of let the arrow draw the bow a little, let life come to them and kind of evolve with what's happening. You know what I mean? And they might have the same long-term objective, but some people, look, I don't disparage anyone who wants that hard edge, kind of more disciplined approach, but just know that's not for everybody, right? Like some people aren't wired like that. That's actually demotivating, And so I think, to each their own on it.
And to that point, a lot of therapy, reflection, healing over the last several years, and just growing an emotional, and mental and spiritual health. There's a book. Derek was with me in October. Mike Foster wrote a book called The 7 Primal Questions.
Oh yeah, I love that book, man.
Dude, I love that book. He gave a talk about it, and then we spent an hour longer kind of going deeper with him about it. And he's kind of synthesized this thing of obviously I know attachment theories and I know Enneagram and I know all these other things, and they're all super helpful. But he kind of opened my eyes to something that I didn't realize about myself, my journey, and why I'm wired the way I'm wired, and how it's so different from my parents. You're talking about some people need the regimented things. It's because that deep question within them that they don't, since childhood, have been trying to answer. Their motivation is different than mine, right? So some people is am I loved? Some people, their question is, am I successful? Some people, their question is, am I safe? And this kind of defines the trajectory of how they approach their life and their career, their relationships. My question that I learned about myself was, am I good enough? And it's because I was raised in a way that, like, if I didn't get a A plus, if I only got an A, that was a disappointment to my parents. If I wasn't the perfect youth group leader at church, I was a disappointment to my parents. So that's why rejection is really hard for me. That's why, but that's why I don't have these arbitrary goals that, like, I have made it, because I've never made it. Like, there's always more. There's always something better. There's always something bigger. And so, like, I never feel like I've ever arrived, ever. Like, when we would put out an issue of the magazine, we put out 101 print issues, and we're putting out our next digital issue this week. I never read it after it came out, because I knew that I would find something in it that I wish I would have done differently. The issue is never good enough. The next one can be the one that's finally good enough. And that's what motivated me, was the pursuit of good enough, or like perfection or whatever, which is a goal you'll never achieve. So to me, setting an arbitrary goal of, we put out an excellent award-winning magazine that we are very proud of, and I never stopped to celebrate it because it was never good enough. That's crazy to me looking back. That is very unhealthy, but I also see my journey in a different light now because of people like Mike opening my eyes to this stuff. So that's why, like, goals to me, like New Year's resolutions, there is no black and white. There's always healthier or more financially successful or relationally successful, whatever. So it's like, why would I put my goal at a destination? It's a journey, a progressive journey of improvement, right? So anyway.
And there's this idea. I remember years ago, I briefly got into running. Like, I wanted to do I remember, Cameron, you did that too with
briefly.
Hood to Coast, right?
I did Hood to Coast.
Like, at one point, when I turned 30, I wanted to do a marathon.
Did it and
right?
stopped. And
Yeah. But I read this book, which is a great book, called Born to Run, right? And it's about running and kind of different philosophies with it. But they have a really impactful quote in there that I've tried to apply to different stuff, where it says, become friends with the pain and you'll never be alone. And what they mean by that is, like, look, like, let's say getting up, or like, let's say your goal is reading, right? And you're like, I'm going to get up at this time every day, and I'm going to read, 5,000 words or a chapter of a book I want to get through. And, like, by day 4, you're like, you know what? I hate this because I hate getting up early. Well, what if you did the chapter later? What if you become friends with this thing and find a way to enjoy the thing you thought was painful, and like, or like, hey, maybe I want to get in shape, and I hate freaking running. Okay, well, maybe try cycling. Like, you can become friends with this thing. But you get the point. It's like,
I hate shots. Well, then run. If I hate running, try shots.
Yeah. But in that book, it was like, oh, people would, they didn't like it. They joined a run club or something. They became friends with the thing. You know what I mean? And so I like that idea too, where, you can try new things, but you don't have to try it a certain way if you just literally hate it. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody has to like everything or stick to everything, or like, I want to do like the carnivore diet. If I'm 3 days in and I'm like, if I have one more piece of beef, I'm going to yak all over the place. All right, maybe I can find a healthy diet. Exactly. It's not like I'm a failure. I can still become friends with a thing that it seems painful to me, which is eating better, but I didn't have to be my enemy, Like, I think that's kind of an important concept too when it comes to predetermining all these milestones and stuff. It's like, all right, well, let's figure out what works for you, Yeah.
And that's the thing I was going to say, is that I'm going to preach a little bit, but, to Cameron's point about the primal questions that we talked about, mine is, am I secure? And that's growing up being financially unstable at times with an addict in the household. Sometimes money would just get blown up out of nowhere. So constantly in my life, when things started to go like stable and normal, I was always looking for where the atomic bomb is. And it's like, was constantly trying to insulate myself from that atomic bomb. And the beautiful thing I love about God is, to all of our insecurities, all of the things that we're nervous about, God says, let me have them. Be secure in me. And that's what I found over this season. This just like, God has been saying, like, son, put those burdens on me. Like, you can rest in me. Like, Are you good enough? Yes, I said you're good enough. If image bearers, are you secure? Yes, you're secure. Are you safe? Yes, you're safe because you're safe in me. You can always depend on me. And then when you take the question in that way and say, yes, I am secure, now I can begin to actually enjoy the journey. As opposed to me trying to make a hit. It's like, no, I'm just going to come in the studio and just do what God made me to do. I'm going to come here. I'm going to make podcasts because that's what God called me to do. And if one person listens or a billion people listen, doesn't matter because I'm living in my purpose. And that's something I want to do more. That's why my word is peace, because insecurity brings instability. And the only way I feel like I'm going to be able to find security in 2025 is that I'm going to have peace in God and just know that these are his bills. As much as they're mine, they're his. And he made a promise that I don't have to worry. So if I don't have to worry, then I'm just going to have peace in him, and I'm going to do the things that he called me to do and let him deal with the rest.
Dude, that's good work. Bringing the spiritual into it, like that was something that I didn't realize about my own spiritual life, was that because I was so wired that I'm not good enough, that if I can perform good enough, then you'll accept me. So that's affected my relationships, my work, but my faith, because it was one of these things, especially like I felt God called me to start Relevant. So I was doing it for him. And if Relevant was successful, then he'd be happy with me. And after COVID and the company struggled, like it affected me spiritually because I felt shame that I let God down. And I didn't realize, like, I'm not good enough for his acceptance. I failed him. He trusted me with this, and I let it get wobbly, and it's like, I'm telling you, the deprogramming that has happened in my heart and mind and spirit this year has been so freeing, because I realized that that's a lie from the pit of hell. God accepts me how I am. He created me in his image, and I don't have to perform for his love and acceptance. But like, I realized that affected every part of my life. I'm telling you guys listening, Mike Foster, Separate Primal Questions. If you want you want to spend a couple hours crying, reading a freaking book, go get that book, MikeFoster.com.
Right.
It'll open your heart and your eyes to something you don't see about yourself right now. I'm just telling you.
Well, dude, I think that's awesome. And I think it's easy, especially around the conversation of self-improvement and betterment and setting goals and stuff, is to still remember, and not to be overly, cliche, but like, his burden is easy, his yoke is light. Like if there's not an easy lightness to something, you might want to make sure it's the right thing. You know what I mean? I'm not saying there's some things won't be challenging, but there's a difference between, easy and lightness to overcoming a challenge. I saw someone, ironically, posted like a Chesterton quote the other day. Can I read this brief passage that's sort of on this? It's really quick. Definitely. I love Chesterton because he's a great analogist, right? Like everything is unpacking simple ideas through analogies. So he said, the swiftest things are the softest things. The bird is active because the bird is soft. A stone is helpless because a stone is hard. The stone must be its own nature down to go downwards because hardness is weakness. The bird can be of its nature go upwards because fragility is force. In perfect force, there's perfect frivolity. In airness, they can maintain itself in the air. Modern investigation of miraculous history have solemnly admitted that the characteristics of great saints is their power of, quote, levitation. They might go further. A characteristics of the great saints is their power of levity. Angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. Seriousness is not a virtue. It would be a heresy, but a much more sensible heresy to say that seriousness is a vice. It is really a natural trend or lapse into taking oneself gravely because the easiest thing to do. It is much easier to write a good Times leading article than a good joke. For solemnity flows out of men naturally, but laughter is a leap. It is easy to be heavy, hard to be light. Satan fell because of the force of gravity. But just that idea, I think, coming into the new year of like, if you're always beating yourself up because what you're not doing or what you're not achieving, that is like the human condition, right? It's the ability to have a lightness about you and to, understand that there should be an easiness and lightness to how we carry ourselves and how we see circumstances that I think leads people to success, not because they are so overly serious about every failure. It's ironically, I read that, this week coming into this conversation. But it seems to resonate with that idea,
Mm-hmm. That's good, man. Well, speaking of frivolity and lightness, we have slices on this show. After that, we have Chris Durso on this show. And at the end of the show, we have your feedback. So stay tuned. After this break, it's Slices.
Today's podcast is brought to you in part by Mercy Ships. Globally, 5 billion people lack access to surgical care. In sub-Saharan Africa, there's only one surgeon for every 200,000 people. Mercy Ships provides free, life-transforming surgeries for people who have little to no access to medical care. They help the blind see, straighten twisted limbs, remove deadly tumors, treat cleft conditions, and so much more. With state-of-the-art hospital ships, they provide safe surgery to children and adults living with treatable conditions, and it's completely free of charge. They do all this work with an all-volunteer crew of professionals who donate their time and talents. Surgeons, stewards, nurses, engineers, and more make the world a better place. Your donation today provides free, safe surgeries to people in desperate need of help. All gifts are matched, so please donate today at mercyships.org/relevant.
Today's podcast is brought to you in part by Tim Tebow's book, Look Again. Have you ever wondered what would change if you truly believed you were infinitely valuable to God? In his New York Times bestselling book, Look Again, Tim Tebow reveals the powerful truth that when we learn to see the image of God in every person, including those we struggle to love, everything changes. Tebow shares incredible stories from his work with people the world often overlooks, and it will challenge you to stand up to the lies, rediscover the worth that everyone has, and impact the world for good. Find Look Again by Tim Tebow, available now wherever books are sold.
Okay, it's time for
Slices.
What do you have, Jesse?
All right. I want to briefly get your guys' take on something I'm kind of excited about. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. Where do you guys land on Christopher Nolan?
I rock with Chris. Chris is a bad boy.
Batman trilogies are the only superhero movies that I like, other than the Iron Man, the first Iron Man. But yeah, so I'm down. I like Christopher Nolan quite a bit.
Yeah, and he has a lot. He takes a lot of different paths, right? He did like kind of sci-fi stuff with.
He did Inception, right? Did he do Inception?
And he did Interstellar. He did Oppenheimer. He did.
Oppenheimer was really good.
Yeah, Dunkirk. He did Memento back in the day.
Memento was like, it was almost like Shyamalan, Sixth Sense, like mind bending. Like we'd never seen anything like this before.
Memento was crazy.
Memento was like, what? Yeah.
So he's announced his new project, and I'm just going to read some of the cast for this film. Zendaya, Tom Holland, Rob Pattinson, Charlize Theron, Lupita Nyong'o, Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway. They are just among all the people in this new movie. Do you guys know what his next project is?
No. No clue.
His next project is remaking Homer's The Odyssey, the epic. And so the response to this.
Wait, wasn't that Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
That was like a play on that was basically the Odyssey set in the South, right?
I was trying to explain it to Cohen because I had him watch it with me 2 months ago, and I was like, I haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember it being groundbreaking, and I was just in the mood for like George Clooney singing bluegrass. Yeah. And so we watched it, and like the story is so weird and stuttered, and I was like, this is the Odyssey. This is Homer's The Odyssey. That's why the story is so strange. It's like you have to read the Odyssey to even get this movie. So anyway, sorry.
So that was like a non-literal interpretation of the Odyssey, right? That was taking the structure of the Odyssey and applying it to a story and a setting.
It really became apparent when the sirens happened, in the swamp. That was like, this is...
But they weren't literal sirens, right? Like everything fit within the context of that world, where all the indications is that
one of the girls became a frog. I don't know.
That's true. Well, but to that point, the Odyssey this is the feedback that I've heard from people that are interested to see where Christopher Nolan's going to take this, because knowing you, Cameron, and some of your taste in movies, part of the reason I think you like the Batman trilogy is because it's grounded in reality.
In reality, that's exactly what
he
it is.
does a great job at that. Yeah.
And every one of there isn't one Christopher Nolan movie, even ones that seemingly have like supernatural elements, have a way that he scientifically explains.
Right, you don't have to suspend logic and reality to enjoy his movies. That's what I like about him.
Exactly. Like even Inception, like, oh, we're going inside people's dreams. Oh, there's a mechanism to do that. There's like a device, or like even Tenet, the one where they have a machine that can reverse the flow of time, right? Like Interstellar. It goes to great lengths to explain the science of the Tesseract and the theory of relativity and all of that. And
I remember Interstellar was the first movie that I understood the multidimensional thing.
Yeah.
Like in a way where it's like, I kind of vaguely, I need to watch it again. I vaguely remember some sort of like bookcase or something where it's like on one side was one realm and on this side was another realm. Yeah. And it finally physically made sense to me. Whereas when you watch a Marvel movie, it's just like you go through this hole and it's a whole other life. You know, it's just like that.
So the one thing, and I was reading somebody.
Leave us alone. Leave us alone.
Yeah. The explanation, he's a wizard, dude. Stop there. We got a wizard in play, okay? But the some of the dialogue I've seen on X is like in like film Twitter is Christopher Nolan, all of his movies are based in the philosophical idea of materialism, right? Like there's a material understanding to how the world works. There's nothing like quote unquote supernatural. There's some way that he can scientifically explain what and how things are happening, right? How will Christopher Nolan do in a story that is a complete detachment from materialism, where there's Greek gods and there's Poseidon and there's supernatural elements and, you know, sirens and all this stuff? A lot of people are saying, like, is this a good fit for Christopher? Obviously, he knows what he's doing, but even down to Oppenheimer, like it took great lengths to explain what seems like the supernatural thing, splitting the atom into science. How will a film director obsessed with science do to a story that is completely detached from it?
It's the entire story is analogy and myth. I mean, like it's not meant to be explained, right? I mean, it's
exactly. But Christopher Nolan's whole thing is explaining.
That's fascinating. Also, how's he going to make it interesting? Because that is a boring story in my opinion. But
you could say the same thing about Oppenheimer. Like, how are you going to make a biopic of a scientist interesting? He found a way, right? I think he can find an angle in, but
he wouldn't be doing it if he didn't have a vision for it, right? I mean, like he clearly had an aha moment and pursued it. Nobody said, "Hey, you should do this." You know, he begrudgingly signed up. So yeah, I'm curious. That's interesting.
And my personal opinion is everything can't be explained with science and ground. Like our idea of grounded in reality is not always reality. Like it's the fact that we like, think about it. If being Christian, you believe that God himself was crucified on a cross and it covered all of the sins of all humanity for all time. Like, that takes a lot of imagination. That takes a lot. And it's the belief that is beyond, right. That is beyond our grasp of reality.
Right.
Like the fact that God created the things that he's created. So I think I'm excited about this because I feel like what he will do is he will merge the two. Like that'd be my hope too. It's almost like merge the two.
He was my on-ramp to believing a superhero storyline because he grounded it just enough, you know, that I could then buy in. So maybe he's just going to ground it just enough, but then we start to believe the mythology and the allegory. I don't know.
But that's why the only concern I have is, all right, this is probably the less known of his movies or the less beloved, but you guys did you see The Prestige back in the day? It was a movie about rival magicians.
Of course.
And so it was a movie literally about the idea of magic. And yet the big reveal, the prestige in the movie is they're using science, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That they
Physics.
are.
Yeah.
They're
If you ain't seen it by now, bro, it's a wrap.
Sorry. He's cloning himself with technology built in by Nikola Tesla.
Next.
But what I'm saying is, like, even a movie about that, the whole concept is this is magic. Turns out to be science. Right. And so that's why the Odyssey, I'm very, very curious, because they are philosophically in two ideas that I think are very important, especially very important, Derek, to your point, for modern Christians, right? Where does the idea of observable means of measuring God's design meet with suspension of not so much belief, but belief in our ability to be able to understand everything with precision. Yeah. How is he going to do it?
We ain't as smart as we think we are, and there's a lot going on in this world that we can't explain with just our little ones and zeros. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, think about like natural phenomenon that we understand now that men, 500 years ago didn't have the tools to measure and understand the way we do. I mean, we know in part, we see in part. God reveals his creation incrementally over time. But yeah, Christopher Nolan doing the Odyssey, man.
Well, just on this topic real quick, have you guys been following the story surrounding a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes?
No, but I assumed you were going to bring up the drones. So
no. So currently, if I pull up I just want to confirm that I'm right on the day of recording this. I believe it's the #1 podcast in Apple. It is. It's bigger than Joe Rogan right now, bigger than The Daily.
Bigger than the Kelsey wife?
Yes, it has dethroned all of them. It's only 10 episodes as well. I got turned on to this podcast a few months back. I saw it being shared in some Reddit message report. I gave it a listen. I'm going to briefly explain. If I know we're running up on time, but I feel like it's interesting. I want to hear your guys' take on it. So the woman who made it is like a traditional documentarian, has worked on a lot of different, documentaries that have been like public access, like PBS type of stuff. Anyway, she got contacted at some point, got interested in this idea that she had heard from therapists that work with nonverbal autistic children, that some of these children seem to display abilities that the only way that they could describe it is some degree of like telepathy. Like these children were able to essentially read the minds of their therapists, read the minds of their parents in ways that were measurable, right? And then so anyway, she kind of went down this deep dive and starts interviewing these kids and like doing different tests to kind of understand these abilities. And some of the kids come from Christian homes, right? Like, and their parents, started framing it as this is their spiritual gift. Like they have like these sort of abilities that we just simply don't understand. We don't understand their connection to autism. A lot of them have like fine motor skill issues. And like the idea of embodiment, like one of them, they're able to get these kids to communicate because they can type on like iPad devices that kind of, speak on their behalf. And once they learn that ability to communicate, they're communicating things that are just beyond our perception. They seem to have even this deeper relationship with God. Their idea of spirituality and what it means to be human is totally different than, we kind of hear, especially in materialistic understanding. I don't know what to make of it, to be honest, right? Like of the show. But I listened to it, try to be open-minded, and it was really fascinating. Like I said, when the second episode, it's a Christian family. And like I said, they frame this as a spiritual gift. But to just talking about the world of
do they make that family look simple-minded or stupid, that they think it's a faith thing and it's not a scientific explanation? Okay.
Not at all. It's so much to the opposite. So much so that you almost get the host is coming around to the idea of religion and faith, because there is no other explanation. That for some reason, maybe God did, like when we think of like the, prophets or people in the Bible that had like supernatural abilities, we don't necessarily associate it with any sort of like medically diagnosable condition that we may now, right? But there seems to be implication that some people are designed and made differently. And that
Moses had a hard time talking. He stuttered.
Yeah. So if you guys are really interested in something that is kind of worldview challenging and not a negative way, right? Like I know it sounds totally woo right? But her approach is very pragmatic. It made me very sympathetic to ideas, especially if you're going to frame everything you do through a Christian worldview, right? Which I feel like is sort of what Christians are kind of asked to do. I think listening to this show in that way, Kramer, you and I grew up in a well, Derek to some extent too, but I know in like hyper charismatic worlds, there's a degree of mysticism to what is being practiced. Sometimes.
Of course there is, and not Derek in a little way, him times 10 of what we experience. But dude, the prophet, the Holy Spirit, dude. I mean, like
I grew up Pentecostal. So
dude, I've been in services where gold dust appeared. I mean, signs and wonders don't scare me.
So much so that
I've seen healings. I've seen significant things happen with my own eyes.
Some of these children, a lot of them report all meeting together. These are kids that haven't met each other. All report being able to meet each other in this place they call the Hill, which sounds like this almost heavenly place where they're sort of ministered to, where it's, I don't have an explanation, but I do know like the idea of Christian faith is a string that is threaded throughout the show. And I'd be interested to hear other Christians' perspective on it because I don't know what to make of it.
All that to say, Christopher Nolan's doing the Odyssey.
Yeah, but again, the tension point between materialistic ideas and spiritual, I can't wait. It's going to be interesting. I love that. I love that.
Look, that's the world we live in. We live in a world where we have made a lot of progressions to be able to explain things that in the past were thought as magic, but we still got a long way to go. Yeah, we still got a long way to go, and I'm interested to see this movie and see what comes of it because Christopher Nolan. He's that dude. He's that guy when it comes to taking big things and making them relatable. He's that guy.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. What do you have, Derek?
So, Big Lots update. So
finally,
on the other end of the
good stuff. Let's get to. I thought we were going to keep it light today, Derek.
No, Big Lots update. So before we talked about Big Lots is going out of business, they're shutting down all the stores. Well, guess what?
That's what they said.
Just in time for the new year, they found a buyer called the Gordon Brothers Retail Partners, and they specialize in distressed companies, and they bought Big Lots, and I guess they're either partnering with Variety, I think it's called Variety Wholesalers, which is headquartered in Hendersonville, North Carolina, and they own the 400 stores that Big Lots was gonna go out of business in. So Big Lots is gonna stay open under the name Big Lots, but now Variety is the new owner, and they're the wholesalers that are gonna be a wholesaler. So they picked up all the Big Lots, they picked up 2 distribution centers, and let's see, it says Big Lots currently employs more than 27,000 workers and had more than 1,300 stores nationwide as of March 2024. So good news for Big Lots. All of them aren't going out of time.
Miracles do happen.
They happen, bro. Miracles happen. At the final hour, man, Gordon Brothers came in, hit the shot.
That's the thing. It's like Party City's done, but I mean, I think about Red Lobster. Literally over Christmas, we're watching some, and then like there's Shirley Caesar Red Lobster commercials, and like, and Cohen's like, I thought they were out of business, and I was like, no, see, that's the thing. Is like they do a little like readjustment, they shut a few down, and then some new owner comes in and saves it. So
I almost think the press release of something going out of business sometimes is part of the relaunch.
I agree. Because everybody's like, no, we want that.
America loves a comeback.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. That'll do it for Slices. Check out relevantmagazine.com every weekday where we are covering all that faith, culture, and everything in between. All right. Stay tuned. Up next, Chris Durso joins us.
Today's podcast is brought to you in part by John Mark Comer's book, Garden City, a book that speaks to the tension we all feel between work, rest, and purpose. The New York Times bestselling author John Mark Comer takes us to the scriptures to identify what it really means to be human and flips the script on the idea that who you are matters, not what you do. He shows that God created us for meaningful work and meaningful rest. Both matter. This book helps you ask and answer the big questions. Does God care where I work? Is there a direction for my life? So you can discern God's heart for your calling, your rhythms, and the way His Spirit wants to shape every part of your life. If you're longing for purpose and a more grounded way to live, check out the new hardcover edition of Garden City wherever books are sold.
Well, today's show is brought to you in part by the new book, God, the Science, the Evidence. We talk a lot about faith, but how often do we talk about science in the same breath? You might be surprised to discover just how deeply the two actually agree. For centuries, science has been used to dismiss the idea of God, but today an intellectual revolution is underway. Modern discoveries in physics, cosmology, and biology are consistently revealing the same truth: creation isn't an accident. That profound reversal is what engineers Michel-Yves Bolloré and Olivier Bonassi investigate in their international bestseller, God, the Science, the Evidence. This book is a rigorous, evidence-based critique of materialism, inviting you to explore over a dozen scientific, philosophical, and historical domains. It shows that what was once seemed impossible, that science could point to a creator, is now supported by a vast and convergent body of evidence. With over 400,000 copies sold in Europe, this book is sparking a global debate. It's thoughtful, fascinating, and a powerful reminder that reason itself affirms the existence of God. Learn more and find out where you can purchase your copy today by visiting godthesciencetheevidence.com.
Today's podcast is brought to you in part by Erwin McManus's book, The Barbarian Way. Some books don't just inspire you, they confront you. The Barbarian Way, now celebrating its 20th anniversary, is one of those books. If you felt the pull of God towards something deeper and wilder than the safe, predictable version of faith that we settle for, McManus reminds us that following Jesus was never meant to be tame. It's meant to awaken courage, passion, and purpose God placed inside us. He draws from the wild stories of Abel, Noah, Moses, Rahab, and others to remind us that following God wasn't meant to be tame. Safe faith isn't working. Step into the story God is writing for you. Choose passion, choose boldness, choose the Barbarian Way. Available now wherever books are sold.
Well, our guest today is Chris Durso. He's a speaker, pastor, faith leader who you might know him back in the day. He did a youth movement in New York called Misfits. And this year he launched the Soho Bible Study, and it's blowing up. I don't know if you follow it on Instagram, but we talked to Chris about the new generation of believers that are hungry for the gospel truth and genuine community. Here's Emily's conversation with Chris Durso.
For people who may not know, when did you first start thinking about launching Soho Bible Study?
I really wasn't thinking about it. It was in 2023 in June where I prayed this simple prayer because I travel full time as a teaching pastor for several churches around the country and, just traveling for ministry. And I just prayed this prayer like, God, I really enjoy traveling, grateful for it, but I know I'm a pastor and curious about what's next. If you could show me. And a few weeks later, I sat down with a friend of mine who works with the Catholic Church. And he said, hey, we have buildings all around the city. Maybe you could do a Bible study at one of them. And he named one in Soho, which is downtown Manhattan. And I just said, man, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, let me think about it. Let me pray on it. And then within 3 weeks, friends of friends reached out who own a hair salon in Soho. And they said, hey, ask Pastor Chris if he wants to use our hair salon for a Bible study. And so I heard a Bible study and I heard Soho twice within 3 weeks. So I took that as an answer to my prayer. My wife and I sat down with the couple. Their names are Robin and Jamie. They own an incredible hair salon called Kid House. And that was in July, the end of July, August, something like that. And we just said, all right, we'll pray. And then we did our first Bible study in October of 2023. And what was crazy about it is I didn't want to get in front of a camera and start saying, come to our Bible study or come to our church. And we honestly only called it a Bible study because we didn't want to call it a church. We felt like there's a need in Manhattan, but let's just see what the response is. So we just created an Eventbrite link and I sent it to 4 people and I told them to send it out and see how people respond. Because I love that quote that says, you don't have to advertise a fire. And I just thought, all right, God, well, if this is you, I didn't want to do the whole come be a part of our Bible study thing. If people are hungry for it, they'll respond. And we opened up 250 spots because that's all we thought we could fit in the hair salon. And before we even had our first gathering, all 250 spots were full. In fact, we only advertised it or put it up on social media because a friend of mine said, man, you should tell people what you're doing. Because if not, people will be, if they're in the area and they want to be encouraged, they would have missed it. So we created something to put out, but honestly, we were already at capacity when we did.
Now, would you say that people who attend come from a typical church background, or do they all have a lot of different stories of how they ended up there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, dozens and dozens. I mean, there's so many different stories. There's the stories. I know this one guy who grew up in church his entire life, walked away from the things of God, and then started coming to the Bible study just because it felt like the complete opposite of what he grew up around, and what he felt like he saw in the church he was going to was a whole lot of politics and, who knows who and who's connected to who. And here he didn't sense any of that, which is high praise, right? The other people that did not believe in God or weren't necessarily looking for church and just heard the worship coming from the second floor of the hair salon in Soho and decided to step in. There are several stories that are just pretty mind-blowing. And, there are people that walk in smelling like weed or liquor and just hoping that whatever we're going to talk about here is going to help them so that they don't need to cope how they're coping. And that's what we want. We want everyone to be able to step in, experience the presence of God, regardless of where they're at, right? Because we believe that God will meet them right where they are, even if they don't necessarily know what they believe, so that they can experience the presence of God and start this journey of what it looks like to be a Christian.
I know you said you didn't set out to start this Bible study, but do you have any dreams for where you want to see it go in the future?
Yeah, I would love to see a thriving church in Soho and all throughout New York, to be honest with you. I mean, the vision would be from Manhattan to Montauk. Montauk is the end of Long Island. I think New York needs it and is hungry for it and is ripe for it. But right now we're focused on Manhattan. But if you're asking me, like, what do I have? What are my dreams? I mean, my dreams are to reach New York City and to have a church that is welcoming and really training people to be disciples, and not just spiritually mature by knowing their word, but emotionally mature to know where they're at in life, to be able to have a sense of their own EQ, to have self-awareness of what they've gone through and how they're living, and how they're either living as a single person or a married person or as a parent. I mean, I think that's the church that we're building, and I think that's the church of the future. I mean, I thank God that we are in an era where people are willing to be honest about what they've gone through in life. And so when I think about the church of the future, or the church I want to build, it has less to do with aesthetic, and it has more to do with authenticity. And I know that sounded like alliteration. I didn't mean that to. That's not like a line that I wrote down before, but as you asked me that question, like, that's where my mind goes. It's like, I want it to be beautiful. I'm all about that. But we've also seen that version of church come and go, and things were pretty on the surface, but they were corrupt underneath. Or there were people that were just well-to-do and wanted to do something great, but didn't deal with their own stuff. And as a result, we've seen those churches come and go. When I think of what New York City needs, it needs a church that is willing to be honest about everything the Bible talks about. Is this verse that Jesus says, and he's preaching on the Beatitudes. He says, "Blessed are the pure in heart." That idea of pure in heart is, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Like, what a powerful statement. Blessed are the pure in heart. Well, what's someone that's pure in heart? It's someone that's being honest about where they're at, right? Theology teaches us that when we confess who we are to God, we're saying the same as God. So God already knows who we are. He knows what we're dealing with. But for me to confess where I'm at, God goes, yep, that's exactly where you are. I'll meet you right there. And when I think of the church I want to see. I want to see a pure-hearted church. A church that's willing to be honest about where they're at so that they can see God, because that's the promise.
Yeah, I love that, because I feel like so many of us have experience in places that preferred what you were saying, like that aesthetic over authenticity. And I'm with you. I'd much rather have an honest, maybe a little messy, sometimes ugly, but ultimately real church.
Yeah, let's go. Right. Real church. And I think church is messy. I think it should be messy. I think that I'm not excused from that generation of leaders, right, that wanted something that just looked different, because for people like us that grew up in church, there are a lot of things that we saw that we didn't like, especially if we're creatives, or especially if our whole world doesn't just operate within the four walls of that building. We see how beautiful things could be, and we know that God is creative and he does things beautiful. So we want these things to come to the church, but never at the risk of missing out on his presence or people being willing to be vulnerable and honest. I think that, speaking of New York and aesthetic, there are places in New York that if you go and if you're not dressed a certain way, they let you know. They're not letting you past our front door, or the vibe they're going to give off is you're not welcome here. I don't want to create that. I want to do everything in excellence, but excellence for me is way beyond the atmosphere and more on the heart.
That was Chris Durso. Make sure to follow him on Instagram. See what they're doing there in Soho. It's really cool. All right, stay tuned. Up next, we've got your feedback.
Well, today's podcast is brought to you in part by the new book, Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic. Author Jonathan Seidel knows firsthand how even believers can get stuck in shame and destructive habits, especially when it comes to one of society's biggest obsessions, alcohol. In Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic, he details his spiral into disordered drinking and shares the 4-step process he eventually used to break free. There's hope for alcoholics who become Christians and for Christians who become alcoholics. Find Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic wherever books are sold. What if you could change a child's life with just $10? Right now, thousands of vulnerable children in East Africa are suffering from jiggers. It's a painful, preventable parasite that burrows into their feet. Soul Hope is the only organization treating it through foot washing, medical care, and durable closed-toed shoes that protect kids long after treatment. $10 may not seem like much in today's world, but when we come together, those small gifts add up to big change. Join the 10 for 10 campaign. $10 protects 10 small toes. Visit soulhope.org/10 to give now. One small gift makes a big difference. Again, that's soulhope, SOLE, hope.org/TEN.
All right, it's time for your feedback. Last week, we asked you, we were talking about the fact that a study came out that said Gen Z gets most of their financial advice from TikTok. They call it FinTok, financial talk. 65 or 68% of Gen Zers say that their finances have improved and they feel better financially because of things that they learned on social media. So we asked you, what is the best advice you've gotten from social media? You hit us up on social media at Relevant Podcast, and here are some of our favorites.
Jason says the best advice I've ever learned from social media is not to trust everything you see on social media. Bad advice. Why would it be on there if it's not true, Jason?
Dude, can I tell you also, I know we're running out of time, but speaking of not trusting things. So last night I was 1 minute story. I was walking Barkley and I'm listening on my headphones. I'm listening to the new House Fires album, Chapel Sessions Volume 1. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. Listen to it every day. I was just singing and worshiping. And I was like, man, I just wish I had a nice piano at the house. I could sit down and play these songs and whatever. So I just arbitrarily, I have this little dream piano, I have this little spot in front of my house. And I was like, I'd love to have a Yamaha Baby Grand one day. So I go on Facebook Marketplace when I got back from this walk. I go on Facebook Marketplace. I type in Yamaha Baby Grand. And 4 hours earlier, a little old lady posted her Yamaha Baby Grand, and she said, I have to move to a smaller house. I'm going to give it away free to a good home. No reseller. And I was like, look at God.
Come on.
And so I hit her up. She got me back right away. We're talking. She's grilling me that I'm not going to sell it. And I was like, no, I want, good home. She's like, okay, here's the phone number for the movers. We just moved out of the house. He has it. I'll email him now, or I'll text him now. You hit him up. He'll deliver it. And I'm like,
I was going to say, you were almost murdered.
So I started to do the thing of, if you can't see the product in real life, it's probably a scam.
Uh-huh.
So I'm talking to the mover. I'm like, what mover moves a little old lady and holds on to some of her merchandise
to the merch
to individually deliver that separately? Like, I'm like, So, talking with the guy, and he's like, yeah, hey, I just need, like, here's the price. What's your address? Here's the price. And you just need half up front and then half on delivery. And I'm like, And I started to ask for, like, verification and, like, payment info and all this stuff. And it just all started red flag. But I started asking him for, like, I was like, you know what? Send me photos of the piano in your moving truck this morning. Because he was going to deliver it today, the day we're recording this. My friends, he sent me AI generated of him, a mover, in the back of a moving truck with a Yamaha Baby Grand. Now, the lady had real pictures of a Yamaha Baby Grand. I'm telling you, it was the most, I'll send them to you in the chat, the most AI looking plastic. I'm like, dude, that looks AI generated. He goes, what's AI? And I was like, okay, I was like, send me another photo of it. Like, cause it had no packaging on it, no whatever. It was just open and the lid was up and the back of the van. Come on. Anyway. So I'm like, send it to me packed up. And he sent me another photo an hour later, AI, and it had like blankets on it, but the word Yamaha on the front was that AI letters of like, it's not real letters. And I pointed that out. I said, never contact me again. I reported it on Facebook. But anyway, don't believe everything you see online.
Scammers.
You're going to get scammed.
Scammers. Oh, yeah.
I'll be honest. It's weird you have this story, Cameron, because I had the opposite experience. I'm a very trusting person. I believe most things. It's so weird because it was the same situation, a little old lady with a grand piano. Anyway, I paid half up front. I should be here any day now.
Any day, yeah.
This was like 2 weeks ago. They haven't got back to me yet, but I'm sure it's fine. But it's weird because mine worked out pretty great up to now.
Facebook Marketplace is the trenches. Like, I ain't gonna even lie. Yeah. Like, I will sell stuff on there, and then you get instantly people like, hey, I'm interested in buying that. Can you give me your phone number and here, deposit this or whatever? I'm like, man, you crazy.
Show up in person with cash. That's it.
That's what it is.
This is clearly AI.
Dude, look at the second one I just sent y'all. Try to read the Yamaha on it. God, I couldn't believe he sent this to me.
So Olivia says she loves watching the clean freaks on TikTok because they give her inspiration. And her apartment has never looked better. And that clean TikTok, all I'm going to say, Olivia, be careful with, please be careful with like the chemicals, because I seen a lady put like Comet, scrubbing bubbles, Lysol all on the bathtub at one time. And I'm like, she can't be alive. That's a toxic weapon.
Yeah,
like, I mean, that's chemical warfare. Like,
she's
that's
making
not
napalm in her bathroom.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, just be careful. If there's more than one concoction of chemicals, you may want to wear like a gas mask at least.
Yeah.
Hazmat suit. Oh my God.
You see the photo? That's me saying, show it to me in the truck. And he's like, the scammers are getting smart. Who knew scammers could do AI? You know what I'm saying? Like,
but it's like, I don't know what cinematographer you had to come to light your truck photos, but wow, it looks like something out of a, like a dramatic film.
It's so perfect. First of all, what mover is making this perfect of a photo?
Yeah. Everything about it. And all the other photos are real photos of a Yamaha Baby Grand piano that, like, in the lady's house. But when I asked the mover guy to send me photos of it on the truck today, that's what he sent me. And I was like, never contact me again.
Well, and the back wall of the truck is different in both
totally
photos.
Different. That's what I'm saying. And every time he was like, oh, I'm on a back road. I can't pull over. I don't have time for all this. I was like, then it's off. And he's like, I'll ask my partner to do it. There's always something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The partner's just riding in the back of the truck down the back road, and it's just ready to take the selfie. There's a lot of red flags.
One of the payment, PayPal, Venmo, whatever, the email address that he gave me for payment, it was like this bizarre URL. And I'm like, this doesn't look like a good, real URL. Yeah. So I Googled it. I put it into Google, and it came back that it was a website that would generate temporary email addresses. And it was flagged that this is readily used by scammers, so they can't track it. And I was like all the reasons. I just had fun seeing how far he would take it. But the AI generated product photos really gave me a laugh. Is there any other ones?
All right. Well, we can maybe leave on this one. The best advice is don't ever start an argument online with a stranger unless you feel like wasting your time. Done.
That's good advice. Great advice.
Yeah, there you go. All right. That'll do it for last week's feedback. There's more where that came from. You want to check them out on our site. Okay, it's time for this week's
editorial question of the week. Hey.
All right. Well, we were just talking about that Christopher Nolan is going to be doing the Odyssey, which super science reality guy taking on something that's mythical seems like a very interesting choice. Got us thinking of other filmmaker and story combinations that you would like to see. So hit us up at Relevant Podcast on X and tell us what's something you would love to see, like your dream pairing of story and storyteller or filmmaker. And we'll read them on next week's show.
Yeah. I mean, it could go ahead, Derek.
I was going to say, like, for me, I would love to see Christopher Nolan ground Snow White and the Seven Dwarves in reality. Like, what would that look like? Like, what would be the tension there? It's like,
well, they're doing a live action Snow White right now, but it's not a Nolan take.
I'm sure it's going to be more mystical. I'm talking about ground this in reality and science. Like, what's happening?
Why is this lady living with a bunch of little people?
But like Greta Gerwig, who's coming off of Barbie, is doing the Narnia movie, right? Yeah. Like, okay, that's a combo. How about a Wes Anderson Bible movie?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dude, there is not crazy. Wes Anderson, but there is I've been conversations with them. I don't want to give too much away. Mid-year 2025, there is going to be a 10-episode season of a series that's kind of like The Office workplace deadpan comedy of the Israelites like leaving Egypt, like when they're in the desert.
Goodness.
And I've seen the first episode. It's legit funny and well done. And it's by somebody who's like part of the Chosen production, but he went off. He's like super funny, and he went off and did this own project, and they got a lot of funding, and it's got a lot of money behind it, and it's legit good. It's going to come out like probably June-ish, but so it's not Wes Anderson Bible movie, but it's like the Office Bible movie. It's really funny.
Or like, what if Michael Bay directed Moses?
No, I mean,
like, it's like,
that's a match made in heaven.
That would be crazy. The Red Sea parting in slow mo.
Those rock monsters.
It would be crazy.
All right, hit us up. We'll read them on next week's show. All right, that'll do it. Many thanks to Chris Durso for joining us today, and also have a great New Year's, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us this year. It's an awesome year, and we're excited what's coming in 2025 with the podcast and everything. We appreciate you guys listening, and hope you have a great New Year's Eve or New Year's. All right. On that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Derek Miner.
We'll see you on Friday. See you, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
It's a magical night. It should have actual magic happening.
Relevant Podcast Network.